Hey there, guys. Blackjack coming at you today with the How to Play BattleLund video. Something that I know I've been asked about by a few people on my Facebook page and even some messages. Just want to know, okay, I see you posting these pictures. How do I actually play? So today I'm going to be going up with that. We'll also later be doing a demo battle game and then a full 600 on 600 point Dwarf versus Dark Elf game with the lovely, even though you won't see her face, trust me, she is quite lovely, Mrs. Blackjack. So, anyway, what do you say we get this started? So, we'll just go over something real quick. We got in this game different types of units. And this is just going to make so you guys see the game itself runs a little bit quicker. So, you've basically got five different units. All right. You've got your individual characters, which can be attached to infantry units. Currently, I know there's plans in further expansions to have cav units, but they usually come loaded with lots of different special rules, ability to cast spells, give units orders, things like that. So very versatile, and they can be attached to infantry. All right, very simple. You've got and they come on a 1x1 inch base. Next up, we have the large monsters, creatures, things like that. They come on a 1.5 base, generally individual guys, very powerful, not leading. Some of them cast spells, some of them have special abilities, like this Noxious Dragon can poison the enemy, has lots of hits. Disadvantage to them is they don't die easily, but they get hit very easily. So very susceptible to range combat, things like that. So get them stuck in that melee as quick as possible. Next up, you have the bread and butter of any rank and flank game, your infantry units. They, of course, come in your standard infantry, bodyguard, range guys. See the little bows on them. So Uh, these are the ones that you basically send out to take the fight to the enemy, hold capture points, hold down units, things like that. One thing about this is in their stat line, every unit, every rank has its own set of wounds. So, like these guys, when you read their stat line, which we'll go over stat lines a little bit later, in this, every stat line has 5 wounds. That's per stand. So this unit here would actually have a total of 20 wounds. The only thing about them is they tend to die easier and tend to run away quicker. All right. Next up, you have your cav, and both infantry and cav units come on a 4x5 base. So, and of course, these guys are your basic light cav, have some bows to shoot out the front. Not really skirmishers, they're just kind of the all round fill in, can do a little bit of everything, not quite great at any one particular thing, but very versatile. All right. Now, this cav unit only has 4 wounds each, so of course, a little bit gets killed a little bit quicker. Well, they're dark elves. Dark elves tend to hit hard, but not able to take a hit. Then, of course, you've got your artillery pieces. I believe they come on a 4x2 base. Thing about them is they break very easily. Like this unit only has 3 wounds, so it's not divided up into any kind of like individual cannons. 3 wounds, it's dead. It runs away, it's dead. Somebody sneezes in its direction, it's dead. The only difference is they tend to have very, very powerful abilities of attack. Like this guy, he does ignore armor, but any hits that go through do 2 wounds. So really, really good and actually hit pretty accurate. You know, for cannons, we think cannons just going all over the place hitting your units. These are dwarves. They don't want to kill their own guys. There's not enough of them to go around. So we've just gone over a quick basic thing. Now we'll go ahead and I'll show you some stats real quick. We'll go ahead and just use a very basic stat for the dwarves, which would be your tall axes. All right. So, of course, you have name of the unit. Now, when you look in the book, it actually tell you if it's a character, infantry, things like that. Once you play enough, you can tell just by looking at it what it is. But MV is your move. That's how far they can move on a standard move. In this one, the quick march, things like that, add +2 to it. Melee in this game, that stat is a 5 plus. So when it attacks, it needs any dice it rolls, it needs to do a 5 plus. SH is its ability to hit it when it shoots. So you can see these guys don't shoot. Agility is how fast they strike in combat. Now, in this game, as opposed to some others, dwarves aren't necessarily slower than anyone, as Gimli says. They are very fast over long distance, are natural born sprinters, very fast over short distances. But they tend not to be able to strike first. So basically, they have to be able to take the hit, but then deliver a powerhouse hit afterwards. Then you have your strikes, not strength, strikes. That's how many dice it rolls when it's in close combat. That's how many FR is your fire rate. That shows how many shots they shoot when shooting. So, and of course, you combine that with your melee goes with your strikes. SH, your shooting, goes with your fire rate. Protection, that's your basic armor. No armor gives you a 6 plus, light, 5 plus, heavy, 4 plus. All right. Wounds. Now keep in mind, once again, wounds are a per in infantry per rank system. So let's just say these were the tall axes. They're actually sword guards. But if they took focus, please. When they take 5 wounds, they just lose their back rank. Quick way. Now, I myself, just so you know, I like to use little gems because I don't like pulling these things out constantly. I use gems on the front to show, hey, I've taken a full rank of damage, and then any extra damage, I'll go ahead and mark here. When it decides to stay in, I'm not just throwing it on there. All right. Then you got your SPOP. That is basically for your characters and, of course, your commanders. They don't have any spells because they're not spellcasters, and they don't give orders. All right. Then you go down to your equipment. Great weapons with heavy armor. Great weapons in this game basically you roll a natural 6 to hit. It ignores any kind of armor you have. Now, in this game, you also have ward saves, which can be taken after your protection saves. All right, and then, of course, heavy armor, which gives them their protection of 4. Traits, count on us. Now, every unit has different traits. You can see I've got it over here, all of them printed. But count on us just means you get +1 to roll, giving these guys orders. All right, so that's the basic overlook. And I'll show you here. This is your High General, the commander of the dwarves. Traits in command basically is saying that it is commander. Special rules, pretty much all of them have special rules. They can cast magic. They'll say magic 1. So you can see this dwarf has no special spell points, but he has 5 dice for orders. Get to that in a second. All right, so anyway, we have gone over the basics of the basics of your list of your stat line. But okay, that's well good. How do you play the game? So the game is basically broken up into 4 separate phases. You got your command phase, movement phase. There is no charging phase. So when you move into close combat into a unit, say like this guy's, these sword brothers are moving in, that's a charge. Boom, easy, done. You don't have to declare them. Shooting phase, and then your close combat phase. All right. So command phase is probably the most complicated one in this. As I've shown you guys before, let's go ahead and I'm going to grab a different one. We'll use the Dark Elf Shadow Captain. Now, the Shadow Captain is in the Oath of Storms. You can see she's got a ton of different abilities. Okay, but you can see here she's got spell points and order points. So what you do, the first thing you do is replenish. Now, non-commanders replenish one of each per turn. If you're a commander, I believe it's two of each. So, keep using them. So you'd replenish that. Roll for priority. Priority is one of those, this is a semi-I go, you go system. So order priority is you each roll one dice, and we'll go ahead and say this red is Dark Elf, the blue is Dwarves. So in this case, Dark Elves would get priority. All right? And that's stay through it. Then step 3 of the command phase is attempt to rally broken units. You do not get a choice in this. Broken units must attempt to rally. Rally in this game is very simple. Any kind of morale tests are very simple. You take your BR stat and roll equal or higher than that. If you succeed, huzzah, you passed. If you go under it, you fail. Had one game where I had one unit start the game and run off the board, could not pass that morale test whatsoever. Very annoying. But anyway, now then we get back. This is where the priority goes back and forth. So person with priority gets to elect one commander to do all its stuff. They can cast their spells, they can do their orders. So in the case of the Shadow Captain, she has 4 orders and 4 spells. I really need to keep these dice closer to me. But some people will use little tokens. I've done it too. So we'll use these tokens for that. Now, the way it is in this game is she has 2 spells that from the game, from the lore of Shatter. Wards of Slime and Corrupt Grounds, which are both protective. But they need 5+. So say she wants to cast Corrupt Grounds, prevent an enemy from running around. All right. So she'd start with her spell points. So you just spend 1, take 1 dice, roll it. Needs a 5+. So in this case, I rolled a 6. It would have gone off and does its thing. Now, if I rolled a 1, this is we're just going to go through examples, barring special abilities. I could spend another 1, roll another dice. And that would have been a 2. I can keep trying to cast it as long as I have spell points to do that. Or I could say, I'm going to stop trying to cast it. I'm going to cast it over here. Then she can do all her orders, try and issue orders to the other units. Orders are universal currently, in the current phase of the game, are universal. They could be, hey, you archer unit, instead of just shooting during the phase on a 5+, I'm going to try to issue an order. You're within 24 inches, so I'm going to roll, need a 5+ to hit. So now you can move and shoot during the moving phase, and then shoot again at the shooting phase with a negative to it. All right. So, but once that unit gets done doing everything, goes to your opponent. He picks a character. He or she picks a character, does all their stuff, goes back to you, keeps on going back and forth until you pass. Once you pass, you cannot do any more. Same thing with your opponent. All right. Now we go to our movement phase. Same thing. Dark Elves won the roll, so they could say, I've got these 2 units. I'm going to pick this unit, and you got 2 basically types of movement that are voluntary. Regular movement, which in this case would be a 5+. So you just basically measure front to front. So you take your ruler. In movement, as opposed to other games, in this game, they can do up to a 90-degree turn at the beginning of their movement, and then move straight, and then move up to how many inches they want, and then turn at the end. So I could start here, say I want to just move over a little bit. I just want to scooch over, so I scooch, move, scooch, boom, done. That's within the 5 inches. When turning, you basically have to pivot at the center and just turn. If there's a unit in the way, say like this unit's here, they won't be able to do it. So positioning is important. All right. Once again, simple. Involuntary movement is when you break. And those basically mean I'm running off the board, I'm doing something. You have things called oafish, which basically they can have a tendency to do their own thing regardless of what you want them to do. All right. Questions? Put them in the comments. I can't do this live. Can't do it live. Sorry about that. Anyway, shooting phase. Shooting phase is pretty simple. Same thing. So say we've got this unit of bowmen. Of the Dark Elf bows shooting at this unit of Oath Guard. All right, so let's go ahead and start just like before. I get to elect Dark Elf in this phase, would pick one unit to shoot. So in this case, this unit would be shooting at this one. This has I always like to try and be accurate here. The Reaping Bows have a shooting of 5, so need 5+, with a fire rate of 7. I'm going to have to double check that, make sure I copy that down correctly. So, 5, 6, 7. So, bows have a range of 20 inches and they overlap, or they arch. So you can actually shoot over friendly units. Friendly units do not block line of sight. Enemy units do. So, I believe, I have to double check, but that's how we've been playing it. So in this case, I need 5+. And I got 2 hits. All right. Oath Guard have armor of 4+. So in this case, they roll. Boom, boom. No wounds were done. If, say, they rolled a 2 on one of those, 1 wound would have been done. All right. Now, let's just say worst case scenario during the shooting, they would have gone ahead and shot 7 hits, and they got all 7 hits, and they failed 5 of them. All right. That would have actually would have eliminated a back rank. So you would have removed it, showing that the rank is done. And they have a bravery of 4+. So, wow, in this case, they would have run. So just like before, you take 5 inches. So in this case, I'd measure 5, turn around, base to base, and they'd be broken. And they couldn't do anything else this turn. That is shooting. So shooting is a good way to add some extra wounds or even force them to run. Now, one thing on the morale tests, since there's no morale phase, morale tests happen as soon as they're applicable. All right? So if, say, this thing had taken 4 wounds when they shot him, taking that 1, they would have lost that rank, taking that morale test. So anytime the unit loses a rank, that's when they take it. All right, so now let's get into close combat. Close combat works the exact same way. Oath Guard, last turn. Hated getting hit, so now they're moving into close combat with the Reaping Bows. All right, so here's how we would do that. So the Oath Guard have an AG, so they move forward. In this game, there is no bonus for charging into the front rank. Into side ranks, yes, but not into the front rank. So this is your close combat phase. All right. So they're charging into the bowmen, but the bowmen get to strike first because they have agility of 4. They have agility of 2. So even though they charge, these guys are hitting first. They have a melee of 5 with a strike of 4. So they roll 4 dice. They need 5+ to hit. They got 1 hit. Oath Guard are going to go ahead and try and make their save. Failed, so they had taken 1 wound. So as opposed to last turn, they're at 2. All right, now they get to turn around and strike back. Oath Guard actually have a melee of 4 with a strike of 5. So they take 5 dice. And they're armed with great weapons. We'll see if that comes into play. That's cocked. All right. So 4 hits. One of them is a 6. Now, since they're armed with great weapons, they ignore all protection saves. Reaping bows do not have ward save, so they take 1 wound off this top, and they only have a armor value or protection value of 5. And they failed all 3, so now they're at 4 wounds. All right, and now they're locked in combat. In this game, currently, there is no moving out of close combat. Once you're in close combat, you're done. Now let's make things a little bit more interesting. All right, say that the reaping bows are basically fighting 2 units. They have 5 dice, so they can divide their attacks anywhere they want to go. So they have 5, so they could put, say, 3 of the attacks onto this unit and 2 of the strikes onto that. That's fine. Since they outrank since they have better agility than everybody, all that goes. So let's just say they had 4 wounds. They put 1 attack onto them, and they actually succeeded, eliminating a rank. At the end of their agility, since they're doing first, they would have to test, so they could end up running away. All right, because remember, it happens, all their damage applies first. Combat happens, only time combat happens, close combat happens at the exact same time, is if the agility matches up. Now we can actually start adding in some characters. Come here, you. So characters in this game, and we'll put him with the Oath Guard. There's a reason for this. So it doesn't matter where on the board or on the unit the characters are attached. They are part of the unit. In this game, attacks can be targeted at the characters. All right. So in this case, all these 2 units, they attack, they say they didn't do anything. So she has a agility of, what is your agility, girl? Yes, I am so organized, but hey, you guys seem to like it, and I like to keep these things pretty simple. So she has an agility of 4. All right. So same thing with them. Commander here, or the Battle Master, has an agility of 3. So all their attacks would go in first. Boom, boom, boom. Say they've whiffed, yada, yada, yada. All right. Now, they could, if he was with this unit, say all my attacks are going on to the Battle Master. Doesn't matter where he is. He's considered to be part of the unit. But he's with this Oath Guard, and they have an ability, and I know you guys can't always see it, but that's the Oath Guard. They have a trait or ability, whatever you want to call it. I call them traits, called Bodyguard, meaning in close combat, you cannot single out your enemy characters. But they really want to kill that sorceress because she does give the entire unit a 5+ ward save. So all their attacks, every single one, can be targeted at her in an effort to knock her off the board, which is actually pretty easy. She's a wizard. She doesn't want to get in close combat. She casts spells. All right. And that's pretty much the game. Very simplified terms. I just wanted to give you an overview of how the game runs. So just keep in mind, it's basically 4 phases. Command phase, movement, shooting, close combat. Where the game gets a little complicated, where it gets I'm not even going to say complicated. Where the complexity comes into is the traits, which give each unit its own little nice flavor, and of course maneuvering. Because what would you be with a break and flank game if you couldn't maneuver? All right, guys. Anyway, I'm just having fun today. I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of how the game runs. Oh yeah, and of course you do have terrain. Terrain does fix it, but I'll show you that or fix it. What am I saying? Terrain does add a little bit more complexity to the game. Not that much. I mean, what kind of game would you have if you didn't have terrain, right? But anyway, I'll be getting into that when we're doing the demo game because I think it's better to learn how to play a game when you see it in action. In this game, though, I will also say it's your game. Have fun with it. So, excuse me, taking the case. When a unit breaks, the rules state they just move their normal move. I say they're quick marching because they want to get out of combat as quick as possible. So they always add +2 to their movement when they're running away. I also say if they run into an enemy unit, the enemy unit gets to make free attacks. So basically, it would say this because I don't ever like the hey, you fled into an enemy unit, now you're destroyed. I've never really liked that. So some of the changes I make to my personal games are if they run into it, the number of strikes the unit has gets +1 to their hit and +1 strikes, and they get no protection rolls. And say like they're moving 5 inches back, they have to complete their unit movement all the way back. Also state if they hit a friendly unit, the friendly unit has to make a morale test at +1 to their bravery, just to keep from breaking also. That's how I like to play it. Just because for me it adds a little bit more flavor, makes getting into the enemy rear much more fun. But yeah, you've got things that fly. You've got all sorts of different types of artillery, different types of shooting, lots of different weapons. Pretty generous spell list. She has won me a couple of games just from her spells. Yeah, she kind of sucks in close combat, but I love her spells. Oh, and speaking of spells, one thing I will let you guys know, something when you're first getting into the game and that some people do miss is you're not just buying the spells. Think of this game as spells as in scrolls in D&D. So when I buy a spell, I'm buying one use out of that spell. Now you only use it when it goes off, but say she has the Meteor Strike, which is one of my favorite spells, goes off on a 5+, range 25 inches, I believe. But if I hit it, I basically roll a d6, so we'll roll it here. So it automatically causes d6 +2 wounds, no saves of any kind. So very powerful spell. Now you have other things like Dispel Scrolls, Reflect. So, there's ways to defend against it. But I really like it. Oh, one thing, you won't see it in our demo, but dwarves do have spellcasters in this game. This is not one of the games where, they don't have spellcasters, things like that. So when playing this game, really do recommend either playing up to a specific build, and you got to think about what you're building, or make sure your force is well-rounded. One monster, this guy, one monster that can fly can make all the difference. One spellcaster can change the entire game. Even a character, like one thing I like about the dwarves is pretty much all their characters give bonuses to the units they're attached to. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, for the future, I'm trying to keep this a much more low-key game, or low-key channel. I'm never probably going to be one of these big guys who have super well-polished content. I want you to come in, have a good time, and guys, If you know an inexpensive game I can cover, or heck, a miniature agnostic game that you would like to see me cover, play, have fun with, let me know. Um, Always glad to look forward. Anything, any comments, questions, leave them down in the description. Comments, questions, complaints. Hey, get off of YouTube, whatever. Just comment down below. I do tend to read them. But anyway, have fun, guys. Enjoy yourself, and we'll see you later.